Have you ever wondered how to land good short term rentals as a digital nomad or somebody who is slow traveling through a place? Well, this is the video for you. Thank you for joining my live. If you're watching the replay, hello. My name is Prisha. If this is your first time here, I'm a single mom and digital nomad, and I've been traveling full time with my baby since he was a mere 5 weeks old. But I've been traveling on my own for the last 7 years. My son is now 2 and 2 months, and he's already been to 24 countries. And I have not just been to, but lived in 24 countries. And I have traveled to and lived in 32 different countries. So I have quite a bit of experience with doing short term rentals and specifically for families as well. So let's just dive right on into it. I'm going to talk about four different methods that I like to use. Number one is going to be the one that I use the most often, that I'm literally using right this moment, and that is Airbnb. So, yes, I know that Airbnb is going to be more costly than finding a place on the local market. But what you have to realize is that when you're looking for a place just for a month or even for 2 months, it's a lot more difficult to find something for the local prices, unless you're really willing to do a lot of work and hunt and get there and search around, talk to different agents, check out different places. But honestly, the best thing to do, especially if you want to make sure that you land a place right when you arrive, especially as someone who's been traveling around with a baby, a lot of the time, once I get off that plane, I want to know that I have a place to arrive to that I can just chill at, that has a kitchen, that I can cook myself a little meal or delivery if I need to, but I want to know that I have somewhere that I can go to that's going to have all the amenities that I need and that I'm not going to have to do a bunch of shopping to buy like kitchen utensils and things like that. So, Airbnb is what I mainly use when I am traveling and looking for short-term rentals. And when I say short-term, I I don't mean super short term. I mean, yes, sometimes I do stay in certain places for maybe a few nights if it's a layover or even just like a week or two sometimes, but it's more rare. Most of the time, I'm staying in one place for at least a month. And now I'm actually going to be starting to move even slower. But without further ado, let me talk about how my process goes when I'm looking for a place on Airbnb. So the first thing I like to do is obviously like I decide on my location, which is a whole nother video. There's a whole process that goes into me deciding where I want to travel to and the reasons I want to go there. But once I've decided, okay, this is where I want to go, I will head on to Airbnb and I'll go through. So on the app, you can choose certain filters, and certain things are non negotiable for us. For example, we always need to have a kitchen. This one is not always non negotiable, but a lot of the time I prefer to have a laundry machine, so we can do our own laundry. Especially now being a mom, it's just so much more work if you have to go to a laundromat and do it. And there's even times when I was hand washing clothes, like there was moments in Morocco when I was doing it. So if I really have to, I will settle without one, but I always try to make sure we have a laundry machine. So I'll put that filter into. And Wi-Fi is another one. That's another one that also at times I'll kind of be flexible with and be like, you know what, if I can get a local SIM card with good data for a really good price and I don't feel like I really, really need the Wi-Fi, then I can kind of be without it. But most of the time, Wi-Fi is on another one on there too. Um, Most of the time, I'm looking for my own place, entire home. You can choose that setting on Airbnb. There are places, if the cost of living is a lot higher and I really can't make my budget with my own place, then I'll settle for a private room. But then I'll have to kind of see how the situation is, see if it's a shared home with other guests. Like, sometimes there are setups where it's just an Airbnb home and there's like five different rooms and everyone's sharing the kitchen, or it can be someone's local home, like a local family or a couple or a single man or single woman. So I kind of will have to get a vibe of the situation and see if I'm comfortable with it. Obviously, if it's a single man or something like that, then maybe not. But it really just depends on the situation. Like I said, obviously, I prefer to have my own place, but if we're in a really expensive area, and I'm not wanting to spend the prices you have to spend for private places for your own apartment, then I'll go with that. Let me just close the door real quick. I feel like I've been doing this every live because I keep forgetting to first, but it's really loud outside. So yeah, we put on the filters, and then once I put the filters on, I kind of browse through. I like to go on list mode, but also go on map mode, and that's when I have an idea of like, okay, these are what the prices are in the area. Kind of look at the ranges, and sometimes this is the moment when I'm like, okay, everything's a lot higher than I thought, and even though I settled on this location, maybe I'm gonna go on Google Maps and zoom out a little bit and see if there's any smaller cities or towns that are around the area that I might find something cheaper at. And the great thing about this much, oh no, we have connection issues. You know what? Okay, never mind. It seems to be okay. Let me actually connect to my. Should I connect to my data? No, should be fine. We're just gonna stick with this. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, so sometimes this is the moment if the prices look a bit high, then I'm reconsidering, okay, maybe I want to move something out somewhere else. But if everything's looking good, the prices are looking like the kind of prices that I'm enjoying, that are within my budget, and I'm seeing a lot of options, then that's when I'm gonna start going in and seeing places and just checking in for the more minute details. So all the places that fit my checklist, that fit my price list, we're gonna start making a little bit of a short list. And then that's when I start looking for more minute details. Like, does the place have a bathtub versus a shower? Sometimes I like to have a bathtub versus a shower. Honestly, a lot of the time, especially even with traveling a baby, I just got used to using a shower, even though it's a nice luxury sometimes to have those kind of things. So it's always good to look at whatever options there are. And other things are like blackout curtains. That's one thing that is kind of important. And yes, in my first year of traveling, I was traveling around with a little blackout curtain. I had so much stuff that I was traveling with that first year that I didn't actually need. But because it was my first time traveling around alone with a baby, I was like, I need to make sure I have everything that I'm going to need. And, now that I'm expecting a second one this time around, I already kind of have an idea of things that I really were just kind of dead weight and I carried around I didn't actually need. And it's just like the same with noise, how they say it's better to make noise around a baby so that they're used to the noise and don't always need absolute quiet to be able to sleep. Same kind of goes for pitch black. It's kind of good to get them comfortable napping in brighter situations so that they're not always used to the blackout. But at the same time, blackout is a plus, not even just for the kids, but for yourself, so that you're not waking up when the sun comes out first thing in the morning. So because some places the sun will be blasting in the room at 5 a.m. We want to make sure that we're looking at details like that, like blackout curtains, starting to look deeper into the kitchen, because there's so many places that have kitchens but literally just have two burners and a tiny little pan and like one spoon. It happens a lot on Airbnb. There are a lot of hosts that don't pay attention to details and don't provide the things that you need to fully cook the things that you want. And it's frustrating when you're staying in a place for just 1 month and you have to buy a can opener and a bigger pan and more cutlery because there's not enough. Like, you don't want to be spending so much money on stuff that you're just going to be leaving in a place. So that's why I do my best to look at the kitchen, ask questions to the host if needed, to kind of understand more about the place and understand if the amenities, everything that has suits my needs. Another big thing is location. So going back to looking at the map, that's kind of when I'll have an idea of like where the different areas of Airbnbs are clustered within the city. And then through that, I can start to do a little bit more research, comparing the different areas online. Reddit helps sometimes too. Now we have AI. You can go on ChatGPT and ask about the different areas. Um, but you really want to be careful and make sure you do your research, your diligent research on the areas, because depending on what country you're in, what city you're in, you don't want to find yourself accidentally in a bad area. And yes, I can say that there's been moments that I have accidentally booked places that weren't in the best areas. If you guys watched my last live stream where I talked about my scariest moments traveling, this happened once in Acapulco, Mexico, and I ended up in a really sketchy area. And there was a really freaky thing that happened. If you guys want to find out about that, you guys can watch the replay on that live stream. But also, there was one time in Bogota, I was booking really quickly, and I didn't do my due diligence to research the area well. I missed that time, and it bit me in the butt because I ended up in kind of a sketchy area. And even though nothing happened and we ended up being okay, I wasn't comfortable just walking around in the neighborhood by myself. So you really want to make sure that you understand what area your place is in. And what else on my list here that I need to talk to you guys about regarding Airbnb? Was I usually have a short list. Um, if I really feel indecisive and there are a lot of options, I will actually take out pen and paper and I'll write myself a little list. I'll write down maybe 4 or 5 different options that I'm looking at. I'll write the pros and cons of each place. Usually, the pros and cons are based off of things like that, like location, amenities. Does it have laundry? And it's a plus if the place has a dryer, especially with the baby. If you're in a place that's super hot, then sure, like hanging things outside is nice. But at the end of the day, even if you're in a hot place, having a place where you can just throw laundry in the dryer and have it dry instantly, not instantly, but within half an hour, it's priceless, especially as a traveler. If you want to quickly do laundry right before your flight, no matter how hot it is, I mean, there's some places where stuff will dry in 10 minutes, yes, but you still got to hang it up. And being a mom, having kids, nice to have a dryer. So, yeah, there's details like that. Does the place have a bathtub? I'll just go make my pros and cons list and then decide, you know what, this is the one I want to go with. So, that's Airbnb. I feel like, honestly, for me, it feels straightforward. I don't know if there's any other specific details that you guys are curious about or different aspects of it that you're not really sure of. If you have any specific questions, please type them out in the chat or in the comments below if you're watching the replay, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. But yeah, for me, it honestly feels like pretty simple and straightforward, but probably because I've been doing it for so long and it's just like a natural process for me. But now I'm going to talk about the more unconventional methods, and especially if you're looking for a deal and you don't want to be paying the Airbnb prices, because yes, Airbnb will cost you more than a local place. But like I said, it's a lot more difficult if you're not staying for at least 6 months in one spot. So first one, when I talk about these next few methods, it's really gonna remind me a lot of Morocco because there I was in Morocco for a good amount of time and I spent a lot of time looking for rentals on foot or with locals. So this next one is gonna be walking around and looking for signs. I know it sounds like super old school and straightforward, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be on foot walking around. You can hire a local taxi driver or even like depending on where you are, a motorcycle driver to drive you around to find more places like that. But just think about the area gonna that's ideal for you. Like I said, do your research on the areas and the zones. Go walk around in the area and just look around. Most of the time, is if it's in a different language, then yes, you got to look up what rent means in that language. If it's another language that has different character, it might be a bit more complicated. You might want to have a local come with you if you know anyone in the area, or you can always just talk around and try to meet people that can help you out, which kind of leads to my next one, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But I've had success doing this in Morocco. There was one moment where I actually had a long-term place, and some weird things happened. And long story short, I ended up having to leave the place and find somewhere new last minute. But I was on a tight budget, and the places on Airbnb were a little bit more than I wanted to pay at the moment. So I just started walking around the area. This was in Chefchaouen in Morocco, and walking around, turned around some streets, and then I seen a sign that says it had like French and English, I think, on it, something like that, because in Morocco, French is like one of their national languages. I seen that it said apartments for rent, and there was a number right under it. It was like right in front of the actual apartment. I called him. He pulled up in 2 minutes. He showed me the place. It seemed decent. And at the time, like I told you, I was just forced out of the place I was in earlier really fast. And I had to quickly make a move. And had my baby on my back. I was carrying him, or I don't know if he was in the stroller. I think he was in the stroller. But we looked in the place, looked nice, had a little kitchen, little bathroom, little living room area, and it was gonna do the job. So I told him, like, you know what, this is my situation. I wasn't expecting to need a place last minute, and I negotiated. And because we were in Morocco, and this happens so much in Morocco, and it's unfortunate, but some people will promise you something and say something, and then later just turn on their word and say that they never said that. So I was like, you know what? Okay, you agreed on this price with me. I'm gonna pay you cash. Pulled up my phone. I was like, let's make a quick little video, like It was in French because we were both speaking French to each other. It's funny in Morocco. I know I'm going a bit off topic, but in Morocco, I was always changing between three languages because I could speak French, Spanish, and English. And a lot of the times in Morocco, obviously their first language is Darija, Moroccan Arabic, but then their second language is going to be either Spanish, French, or English. And sometimes they spoke more than one, but a lot of times it's just one of the three. So there were like several days. I feel like my whole life living there, those 3 months in Morocco, we're just switching between the three languages on a regular basis. So it was really interesting, but also really good for my like polyglot brain to keep on training and practicing my different languages. But anyways, I digress. So I pulled up the phone and I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna rent this place out from this date to this date. I'm gonna pay him this much in cash. Here you go. And we're both in agreement. Shook hands. That was that. And I had it filmed on video so no one could turn on their word. And yes, there were many experiences that got me to that point that I needed to do that. But it was felt so aligned, honestly. Like in that moment, I really needed to find a place last minute. The location was great. It was right across or right around the corner from this place that had besara for breakfast every morning. And if you guys know Morocco, besara is this really delicious fava bean soup. I miss it a lot. Actually, recently I just made something similar with the white beans they have in country I'm in now, but they don't have the fava beans here. It's really hard to find, so I'm really missing it. Anyways, so that's one way. Walking around looking for signs. In certain places it'll be easier than others, but I feel like no matter where you are, I'm like super kind of passionate and interested in real estate. I've realized that recently. That's like always kind of been a big interest of mine for a long time. And now I'm kind of starting to expand into a little more content with that. I also have a business I've been running with that too, which I won't talk about now. I'll probably talk about it with you guys eventually, but not at the moment. But anyways, like I've noticed around the world in all 32 countries I've visited, there's always going to be rental signs, for sale signs. You look around at different apartments, different houses. Even you can go to local co-working spaces if there are co-working spaces in the area or hostels and look for bulletin boards. There sometimes will be places that have signs like that. And even in certain countries I've been in, you see even on bus stops and poles and stuff, people will be hanging up signs of places that they're renting out. Obviously, sometimes this is a lot of work and it can be tiring and it's more manual. And now in the digital age, some people might think it's pointless, but there are some people who are still pretty old school, older generations that might only be putting up these kind of advertisements and not be putting things online. I know it sounds surprising, but it's facts. All right, the next one is kind of on the same vibe of the previous one, but it's basically I did this a lot in Morocco as well, in a few different locations. But this I normally only use if I've already stayed in the place for some time and I'm wanting to extend my stay. Because, like I said, I want to have a place when I first arrive, when I first land, bus, airplane, train, whatever. I want to have a place that I can rest my head. Now, you can do this strategy and plan to start looking for a place when you get there and only book like a few nights up to a week on Airbnb or in a hotel if you're okay with not having a kitchen. Or there are some hotels that have kitchens these days, depending on where you are. But but yeah, you have that option, but it's better to do that if you already know you're going to be staying in a place for a while. Like if you're only in one place for like 3 weeks or 1 month, I don't know. I can't say if it's fully worth it to go and spend this time searching because by the time you find a place, 1.5 weeks might have already passed, and then you're gonna have to either extend your stay or change your plans or whatever. But yeah, I did this when I was in Morocco and I wanted to extend my stay. And basically, sometimes I would sit in cafes or different restaurants that are like more chill to do work. And then if the staff seem friendly or I don't know, it's weird. I always end up randomly like making friends with people that work in cafes or whatnot if I end up becoming a regular. And I'll just like casually be like, hey, like, do you know if there are any places for rent around here? And a lot of times they might have leads or they might know someone. They might have a neighbor that's renting out an apartment or a room or something like that. And even like it's happened to me a few times where that same person that I asked, like on their day off, they'll literally take me around and show me different places and talk to the people they know with their connections. This happened in Morocco to try to help me find an apartment. So definitely don't be afraid to talk to the locals. Obviously, use your judgment and intuition to kind of feel the vibe of the person you're talking to. Do they feel like somebody trustworthy or someone that's friendly, that will want to help you out, or someone who has a lot of connections? Yeah, just don't be afraid to connect with the locals. It's not only just about like the aspects of them helping you out with this, but also like having a local connection, no matter where you are, is really valuable. You never know when you're gonna have an emergency. You never know when you're gonna need a specific service and need a recommendation. Having a local by your side is always very smart to do when you're a digital nomad, especially if you're a single woman or a single mom. So that's that one. And what was my last one? Oh, okay. This one, it's a little bit more iffy when it comes to shorter term rentals, but there are still a decent amount of options out there for that. And I feel like it's pretty much a worldwide resource that is used in many different countries, and that is Facebook. Facebook Marketplace and also Facebook groups, like specific groups for renting and whatnot. It's a really good resource for finding places. Um, like I said, just like with anything else, it takes some hunting. If you're wanting to search before getting there, there are possibilities to do that. You can always ask them to do a live tour for you and walk you around the place through video chat, through WhatsApp or something like that. Um, Obviously, if you have a local connection there, someone there, you can have them go in and look and check it for you. But at the end of the day, you do have to be really careful with these kinds of things, not to be sending someone cash ahead of time for a place that you're not 100% sure that is verified and whatnot, because there are scams out there. I remember once, this was what back when I was back in Vancouver visiting for a few months, and then I was planning my next location to Hawaii, and I was on Craigslist looking for uh, like a 1 month rental or 2 month rental in Hawaii. And there's this one place that looked like a really beautiful house, and the price was like low key kind of too good to be true. But I was like, let me just try it out. Let me message them and see. I know, yes, this is Craigslist, not Facebook, but same kind of vibe. I'm not putting Craigslist on this list because I feel like if you're traveling to a new place, like it's more reliable and easier to verify through Facebook. But anyways, I was looking for this place and I called the guy, and this is not, I'm not meaning to be stereotypical, but like this just happened to be a situation. The guy has a super strong Nigerian accent, and he's just like, I'm like, okay, can we have a video tour? Or when can I come to like look at the place? And he's just like, oh no, it's people living in there right now, but you can just drive by and look on the outside. And just like, who's gonna rent a place by just driving by the outside and looking from the outside? Big red flag. So yes, might be obvious to some people, but do not rent out a place if you have not seen it in person. Yes, seeing it on a video call is kind of there, but that's why, especially if I'm only somewhere for 1 month, I like to do Airbnb. Yes, you have to pay a little bit more, but you also have the review system. You can go on there and see what other people's experiences are. And with my experience with Airbnb on both sides of guest and host, I know that it's really hard to remove bad reviews. So most of the time, the reviews are going to be pretty accurate. Obviously, some people I've noticed, I've gone to some places where there's tons of 5-star reviews, and then I get there and it's like, is this place really 5 stars? Some people are too nice to mention issues and they'll just give 5 stars away without it earning it. But at the end of the day, you have Airbnb air cover backing you up too. If anything happens, if you arrive there and it really is that bad and you don't want to stay, you already paid for the whole month. You can just call Airbnb and explain to them the situation. Show them the proof that the place is not up to par and that there are issues. And most of the time they will not only reimburse you the money, they will give you like a few free nights if you want to quickly move somewhere else. They'll help you rebook another place. Airbnb is super good with that. And if you went elsewhere, even if it was a trustworthy place, it could just be somewhere that you change your mind later because you get there. And even if you walk through and look at a place, sometimes there are things you might not notice. Like this happened in Thailand once. Like I didn't notice that the walls seemed to be a little bit low-key moldy, and a quick 5-minute walkthrough sometimes won't you won't be able to catch those kind of things. So even if you booked a place on Airbnb with no reviews, if you later found out that it had issues like mold or something that's health related, Airbnb would help you out with that. So that's why I really like to do Airbnb most of the time, unless I'm in a certain place and wanting to kind of stay a little bit longer, like another month, another 2 months, and I have the opportunity to really thoroughly look through and really decide that that's the route I want to take. But Facebook is definitely good when if you decide that you want to stay somewhere long term, like 6 months to 1 year, and you're doing that. You definitely don't want to be staying on Airbnb if you're staying for in a place for more than like 5 months, 4 or 5 months, because let's face it, like at this point, you might as well get a contract. Like if you want to have more appliances for your kitchen, a topper for your bed, things like that, there is no point in paying extra for an Airbnb to have those things when you can just spend a little bit of money. And a lot of times, Airbnbs like double, sometimes even triple the prices of local places. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Let me know if you guys have any other questions about any specifics when it comes to booking Airbnbs. I'm trying to think if there's any other aspects that I have not touched on that I should regarding finding short-term rentals. Um, yeah, obviously, sometimes when I'm on Airbnb and debating between specific places and comparing, I will choose the ones with better reviews. And it's not always just about price. Sometimes I will just go with the one with the better price. Sometimes it will be just about simple things like because the place had a bathtub or because it had a pool. And that's the thing with Airbnb too, is like sometimes I'll choose a place just because it has a pool, and then you get there and they're like, the pool's under maintenance for like the next few months. And that's another situation where you could just call up Airbnb and Airbnb will help you out and help you to move to another place, and it's not just a big loss. There was one time that I booked an Airbnb in Vancouver, and it said that there was a hot tub in the listing. And then when we get there, she's basically just like points at the bathtub and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is the hot tub." So, like I said, um, Airbnb's got your back. So it's, I mean, most of the time, can't guarantee it. I'm not going to guarantee it. I don't work for Airbnb, but it's a lot more reliable. Like you have a lot more chances that you're gonna have resolutions. Obviously, if you're working directly with a landlord and paying them cash, there's still I've had situations where, like, for example, when I was in Oaxaca, Mexico, and I paid for a whole month and I decided, you know what, I want to go to Mexico City for New Year's and I kind of want to leave 2 weeks before I planned on leaving. I already paid the month. I explained it to the lady and she gave me back the 2 weeks and was like, okay, you can leave, it's no problem. So I mean, depending on the flexibility of the person, people will be chill too, but you have a lot more chances of having help in situations like that with Airbnb. All right. I feel like I have touched on most of the things that are necessary for this video, at least through my mind right now. If I get a whole bunch of questions about specific aspects, or even just one question that I feel like deserves a whole nother video, then I'll make another video on this topic. But if not, thank you so much for joining me in today's live. I am going to be doing these lives every single Wednesday. This is the third one in the series of Nomad Mama Diaries, where I talk about different topics regarding my life as a digital nomad, specifically single mom digital nomad. Um, I think it will be helpful to do a video on how I book cheap flights or how my flight booking process looks, because that's a whole another thing. It's even more complicated than booking short-term rentals. Let me tell you that. And I feel like there's like an art to it, and it's one of those things that feels second nature for me because I've been doing it for so long. But I definitely know that it can feel overwhelming for other people. So stay tuned for that. I also have a new two channels that I would love you guys to check out if you're interested. They are both cooking channels, basically doing recipes from around the world, from different countries I travel to, places that hold dear to my heart. I will link them in the description, but I'll basically just tell you, one is called Nomad Vegana, that one's in Spanish, and then there's Veg Nomad, which is the one in English. And I'll be telling the different stories about the place that the dish is from and making a delicious vegan dish from that location for you. Anyways, I'm digressing a lot. It's time to end this live. Thank you so much for joining. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next live or my next vlog. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.